Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your Christmas and New Year's break. We've taken probably 2-3 weeks off. So before we get back into the regular roll of things, I want to go back and I want to review a little bit. This topic, we are now in topic 4. It's called New Forces, Technology, and Unification. And we're going to look this week, week 1, in several different venues, different ways of looking at things. And what I want to start with a little bit of a review. This one's called More Revolutions, Unrest, and Change. So let's get at it. All right, review-wise. I want to look one more time. It's been a while since we've looked at this. I want to look one more time at our premises, those things that we're bringing to the class, to the table, to our investigation, to look at history and try to interpret and understand it. And we started the year, it was in our syllabus at the beginning of the year, with Machiavelli's quote, and it says, "Whoever wishes to foresee the future must consult the past, for human events ever resemble those of preceding times. This arises from the fact that they are produced by men who ever have been and ever shall be animated by the same passions, and thus they necessarily have the same results." To kind of highlight it, human events are produced by men and women, animated by the same passions, same feelings, same motivations, same inclination, same nature, and thus they necessarily produce the same results. They may not be exactly the same, but the rhythm of the outcomes is the same. It's a way of saying history repeats itself, or the history may not repeat itself, but it follows the same rhythm. And that rhythm, that thread that runs through history is the nature of man, his passions, his emotions, the things that influence him, how he was reacting to his world. Since we're all human throughout all of history, throughout every civilization, every group and people and ethnic background, we all are human. Those needs and wants and passions influence and shape how we perceive our world and how we make decisions. So that's our first premise. That's our first understanding. And you have to understand where this is coming from, because it then plays into our second premise, and that deals with this cycle of choices. If you remember this, some of you are going rolling your eyes and going, "Oh my gosh, yes, we're going to do this again and again and again and again." We begin at the top, at the situations. We find ourselves, humanity finds itself, people find themselves, individuals find themselves in certain situations. And those situations are pushing on our passions, our needs, our wants, our desires, and those situations present particular problems, particular risks. If I go this way, this is going to happen. If I stay where I am, this is going to happen. And sometimes that's really problematic. Other times we look at those situations and we go, here's an opportunity. We can gain something. We can take advantage of something. We can do something, make choices in order to benefit our lives a little bit, to feed those passions, those wants, those desires, those needs. And so we evaluate those things, the pros, the cons, and we look at what we might have and what it's going to cost us and what we would like to get and what it's going to cost us. Can we do it? Are there possibilities? And then we have some choices to make. That's the next bubble. That next bubble says, I can stay where I am, do nothing. I can make this choice, this choice, this choice, and come up with whatever I'm going to do. Of course, every choice has a particular consequence. We pick one and we face the consequence. Those consequences become the that new situation, that new world and environment that we're in. And that cycle repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. So those are the two tools, two premises that we're using moving into and throughout history to find out what it's all about. As I said in the first semester, I'm not so concerned with dates and peoples and specific events. I want to know the who and why and what's motivating it, what's pushing people into the decisions and into the events and actions that they are taking. So, where are we? We're in our studies. We're about the turn of the century. We've kind of played a little bit on both sides. We've done a little bit prior to it with the French Revolution, the 1790s. We're moving into the 1800s with Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon has made a mess of Europe. Things are very chaotic. You got lots of stuff happening. So this is Europe at this time. Why Europe? Why not China? Why not India? We're going to get there, but I want to look at this particular portion of the globe for our start off, our launch, because a lot is going to happen in the next 100 years right here. We're going to look at China, we're going to look at the Qing dynasty, we're going to look at the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic Empire, we're going to look at India, we're going to look at imperialism, all those sort of things. But for this particular section, I really want to look at this area because this is the area that are the stimulants. They are the ones that are going out and making those changes. They are the ones that are sparking events and fueling fires around the globe. And I want to kind of look at this like, so what's happening here? What's going on? And what can we possibly anticipate is going to happen next? And if you look at this, there's a lot of stuff going on in that little itty bitty space. Europe, that little peninsula, that little finger sticking out from Russia, is not that large. It's pretty small. Yet, it's impacting the globe, the world, societies everywhere, whether it be in the New World or Africa or in the Southeast Asia or the Far East Asia. So, I want to look at some of these different parts. This is the first part. We're going to look down in what we would modernly, or in our modern times, call Italy. Italy now is one unit, but back then, look at all the different kingdoms and duchies and things that were in that particular area. If you're looking at that picture and you're going, I have no idea what I'm looking at, it's the little boot that's sticking down. That whole little other peninsula coming off of the European peninsula, that's what we would call modern day Italy. Now, this particular area has the Kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia. It has the two Sicilies down by the heel and the toe of the boot. It has the Papal States. That's where the Roman Catholic Church has control. The Grand Duchy of Tuscany, Modena, Lucca, Parma, and then up in the very northern area, very much close to the Empire of Austria, you have the Kingdom of Lombardy, Venetia. So those are all things very independent, and there's this growing unrest of being divided. And we'll take a look at a little bit of that when we get into our unification of Italy and also our unification of Germany, which is this next slide. Look at all of that's going on here. Each of these, again, independent kingdoms, kind of working on their own. They don't have a common constitution, common government, really. And again, they're run by kings and princes and things of that, dukes, etc. You have the Kingdom of Prussia, Hanover, Bavaria, Saxony. You had Kingdom of Württemberg. You have the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. And of course, the same thing with a huge, massive empire of Austria at this time. That's a lot going on, a lot of people, a lot of different interests. You're looking at that situation again. A lot of that situation depending on what your perspective is, who's asking, what do we do? What is our situation? That's different for all of these folks. They're all in a different set of wants and needs and desires. Looking more down towards the Ottoman Empire, more what is modern day Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, places like that, Constantinople, Istanbul, that region. You have many kingdoms again, and also you're beginning to get a lot of ethnic diversity within the Ottoman Empire. You see how much the Ottoman Empire is there? So even in that northern part, you're dealing with Greece, you're dealing with Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Wallachia, and Moldavia, Anatolia, that would be modern day Turkey, and also that Straits of Marmara. That's that region through Constantinople from the Black Sea through Constantinople, through the Dardanelles, into that Mediterranean Sea. That all is under flux right now, or during this time. We're going to see, for instance, here's just a few of the revolts, revolutions, the rise-ups, the fighting, the attempts to find their own and their independence. You have the Greek Revolution from 1820, 1821. Belgium has this huge revolt over near France, north of France. 1830, about 1833, it finalizes. Belgium is actually identified as, or recognized as its own country. It's recognized as a neutral country. That's going to be important coming up in the future. That's in 1839. French Revolt, 1830. Polish Revolt, 1830, 1831. That was dealing with Russia and Austria and things like that, not wanting to let go of Poland. Modena, Parma, and the Papal States, that's that area right in the very center of the boot of Italy. They have their revolt 1831, Siberian Revolt 1835. They do another one again later. Another French Revolt or France Revolt in 1848. And then we have the unification of Italy in about 1859, 1860. It's finalized in 1871. And then you have the unification of Germany, all those little kingdoms and stuff north of Italy in about 1871. So there's a lot that's happening in this really short amount of time, about 30, 40 years. So this is not a very restful time. And you might ask yourself, well, what other things are these countries? Why are they fighting? Why are they revolting? Well, one, you have this ongoing battle with conservatism and liberalism. And for those of you who have written to me and kind of said, well, I don't quite get that, conservatives, they're really religious people, and liberals, they're everywhere. Well, that's modern day sort of definitions and perceptions of conservatism and liberalism. When we speak of conservatism, we mean to conserve, preserve, keep the way it has always been, the traditional way. Typically at this time, that meant the king, the queen, the nobility, the aristocracy, and people underneath them kind of following their lead. Liberalism comes from the idea of freedom, to have voice, to be able to speak your mind, to not be necessarily under the thumb of the divine right of some king who says this is the way it's going to be. The liberalism that blossomed out of the Enlightenment was about people, about individual rights and equality. So there's still this fight. France is going to continue to fight with this for quite a while through the 1800s. They still haven't, sat down on some what we would today call a democratic way of governing. But that's not the only thing that's going on. That's not the only tensions. There's also tensions between Catholicism and Protestantism. So Protestantism is starting to make headway. There's greater pushback on the Roman Catholic Church. whether a country is Roman or Catholic is going back and forth. There's a lot of bloodshed. There's massacres going all over the place. Do people get access to the Bible, or is that really still a reservation of just the priesthood, the elite? They get to know God's secrets and God's knowledge, but not the masses. At this time, we have the Wycliffe Bible in England has been translated. You had the Geneva Bible. You had Luther's German Bible. It's starting to populate. People are starting to learn what's in it. So the control of the Roman Catholic Church is starting to waver. But it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. You're not going to just shake that off. There are people even to this day that are very, very devoted to the Catholic Church, and it's done some amazing things. So there's a lot going on there. What else? What other sort of problems? Well, imperialism. We touched about this a little bit last semester. The spread and taking over, controlling, dominating of other countries, other lands in order to bring back the goods, so to speak, to suck the resources out of those regions. That's a problem. That's creating tension. Who's the top dog? Nationalism is another one. And this is going to keep growing. Who are we as a country? Are we French? And what does it mean to be French? What does it mean to be a French citizen? Who are we compared to the rest of the world? And how are we better? How are we stronger? That idea of almost a patriotic identity is going to become a big issue and starts problems again. There's trades and markets. Who gets what and who can have access to what parts of the world, and where is commerce moving and materials and technologies flowing? Where are they going and who has access? There's also the idea of social equalities. Out of the Enlightenment, out of these liberal ideas of equality and the idea that God has created us as equals. We are in the image of God. Therefore, we should all possess certain inalienable rights. This flavor of things has already been sparking revolutions. We already saw that. But it's not resolved yet. The first part of the 1800s through the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, that whole idea of slavery and the abolition of slavery, the getting rid of slavery, that's going to be a huge issue globally. And what about women's rights, their place in society, their ability to vote? The common man, the person who's not the landowner, what rights and what abilities and what voice do they get? So these are all things that are taking place. So you get back to this, okay, well, what do we do next? What is going to take place in the next 50 years, in the first 1830 to 1870? What's going to happen? And who's going to do it? Well, again, it depends a little bit on that situation and who is asking. What is their perception? What are their needs? What are their passions? What are their wants, et cetera, et cetera? What kind of problems does that present? What kind of opportunities do they have, if any at all? And then, of course, what choices do they make? Creating new situations, and the ball keeps rolling. The interesting thing about history and this cycle is that the cycle gets faster and faster and faster as we get closer to the 1900s. And so the 1800s is going to be sort of like the roller coaster. 1700s was kind of like the tick, 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 getting up to the peak. Right now, we're just about to go over the top and go to that big boom down. That's about where we are. So it's going to get fast. It's going to get wild. And so just hold on, because we're going to look at what everybody's been waiting for, the Industrial Revolution. That's coming up next with new discoveries and applications. So stand by, and we'll see you in just a few more moments.